Hi, Grandma reading The Golden Goblet. And previously in the chapter, Ranofer ran out of the tomb and did find and did find Hecate and the Ancient. He told the Hecate and the Ancient to stay by the cave and try to push the stone in more so that Goblet and Winneman can't get out, and he was going to go for help. Well, he tried to get help at Zhao's and no one answered, so then he decided to go to the palace. There were people at the palace because the palace procession hadn't started yet. So he leaped over the palace wall and he's trying to find someone to let them know about what is happening, that Winneman and Goblet have broken into the queen's mother and father's tombs. All right. Hi, halt there! Who is that? Stop, I say! Without waiting to look around, Ranofer sprinted for the gate and tugged it open. Next instant, he had burst into an open-air kitchen full of ovens and fresh-plucked fowl and the fragrance of new bread, and swarming with cooks and kitchen slaves. With a dismayed gasp, he plunged straight through them, ignored their startled cries and outstretched hands, while the voice behind him bellowed, "Catch him! Catch him!" A dozen yelling cooks were after him by the time he had clambered up a vine in the nearest wall of the courtyard, flung his feet over, and landed running in the kitchen garden on the other side. As his pursuers burst through a gate behind him, he fled up a red graveled path between rows of onions and beans into a grape arbor and presently out the other side. He was panting, stumbling, and by now utterly confused. The angry cries seemed to come from everywhere, and he had lost all sense of direction. He could see no other wall to climb, no way out, no place to hide, and he did not know which way the palace was, which way the street he had come from. He found himself confronted suddenly by a thick hedge and swerved away from it, only to see a burly gardener emerge into the path ahead and run straight toward him. Whirling, Ranofer plunged into the hedge. It was dense and tough. By the time he'd managed to wriggle through it, his flesh was scratched and torn, and his shinty in rags. Exhausted, he tumbled into the velvet grass on the other side and tried to scramble up. At once he was pinned hand and foot. "Now then, you river scum!" panted a voice behind him. The gardener and a shaggy-headed slave were holding him fast, glaring down at him. Beyond them, he caught a glimpse of lawns and shade trees, a pool blue with lotus blossoms, a pavilion set among flower beds, and a group of people staring in his direction. One of them, a soldier with a drawn sword, had started toward him. He struggled helplessly, trying to speak, but only could gulp for breath. "Great boss whiskers, it's only a boy," the slave said disgustedly. "Say something, what are you doing on royal grounds?" "The tomb," Ranofer croaked. "I must warn Queen Tai." The heavy hand slammed against his face. "Insolent," the gardener roared. "Who are you to speak the name of the sun's daughter?" "I must warn her. I tell you, I saw them. I followed." "Hathor's mercy, he's mad," the slave exclaimed, backing away a little, though without loosening his grip on Ranofer's arm and making a gesture to ward off the evil eye. I'm not. Ranofer staggered frantically, his eyes on the drawn sword of the approaching soldier and his mind full of that desecrated underground chamber. "May Set destroy you," he screamed at his captors. "The queen herself will unless you listen to me. The tomb is plundered." "Silence!" The soldier arrived, brandishing his curved sword at all three of them. "Out of here, riffraff! How dare you set foot in the queen's own pleasure garden?" "We followed this urchin," said the slave, ducking away from the sword. "It is a mad boy who came over the wall and through the courtyards babbling of tombs and the queen." "Silence! Return to your duties. You stay." The soldier yanked Ranofer to one side and waved the others out of the side of the kitchen garden. Now then, I'll deal with you. He made a swift, expert movement, and Ranofer found himself stumbling along a path with one arm twisted behind him. It did not hurt until he tried to break away, and then pain, like fire, shot wrist to shoulder. He rapidly decided not to struggle. "Please, Captain, Honorable General," he began. "Silence!" The fire shot up his arm again. There was nothing to do but keep still and go where he was taken, which was, he realized, to the pool, and the group of people gathered near it who were watching his approach. At a respectful distance from them, the soldier halted and murmured in a quiet, new voice, "1,000 pardons, Excellency. I will remove this blemish from your sight with all haste. It is but a mad boy who..." During the brief apologetic narrative, Ranofer managed to twist into a position where he could steady these new people. Foremost among them was a tall, cold-faced man with a massive gold chain around his neck. Behind him clustered a few scandalized palace servants, a gardener, to whom the Excellency had evidently been issuing instructions, and a strange little man no more than 4 feet high, wearing a silver headcloth and 2 enormous rings of silver dragging at his earlobes. Ranofer forced his eyes away from the astonishing little personage and back to the tall man, who he guessed must be the palace overseer. "Excellency, listen to me, I pray you," he begged, cutting through the soldier's mumblings. "There are robbers this very minute in the sacred tomb of the..." He broke off with a cry as the soldier gave a sharp jerk to his arm, snapping, "Hold your tongue, scum!" "Very well, Captain, remove him," the overseer said indifferently. The great one turned away, and Ranofer sagged with discouragement in the soldier's grasp. "In the name of Ammon," he pled, "in the name of the Queen." But already he was being marched relentlessly across the grass toward a wooden gate and oblivion. Then a curious piping voice behind him called, "Captain, wait!" And the dwarf in the silver headcloth came pattering up on his stubby legs. "Free his arms, I want to look at him," the little man ordered in a tone fully as haughty as the overseer's. Loosed at once, Ranofer straightened dazedly, rubbing his numbed arm and staring at his deliverer. Could this strange little man be someone of importance? "Live forever, master," the boy faltered. The dwarf thrust forth his head with a movement that set the huge earrings bobbing. "Who are you, mad one?" he demanded. "Master, I am Ranofer, the son of Thutra, the goldsmith, and indeed I am not mad. Silence! Do you know who I am?" "Nay, master." "Tell him, Captain. His Excellency is Conifer of Abydos, favorite pet of Her Sublime Majesty, the daughter of the sun, the divine consort. May she live forever." The soldier rattled off stiffly. Ranofer glanced at him and saw that his face had turned purple with rage. Obviously, he did not like taking orders from a person half his size. Just as obviously, Conifer, whose name meant tall and beautiful, enjoyed giving them enormously. He smiled like a cat with a particularly tasty mouse, strutted up and down a time or two to make his earrings swing gaudily, then waved an arrogant and much bejeweled hand. "Dismissed, Captain," he piped. "I will take charge of the prisoner." "But your Excellency," the soldier roared. "Dismissed," the dwarf roared back. The soldier turned on his heel and stalked through the wooden gate. Instantly, Conifer seized Ranofer's wrist. "Now quick, speak. What is this babble of tombs and thieves?" Dizzy with sudden hope, the boy sank to his knees. "Master," he stammered, He forced himself to be coherent. "There are robbers in the tomb of the royal parents. I saw them enter. I followed, and they had smashed the eyes of the guardian statue. and they were stealing the gold from the two old ones who lay there so quiet. Fool! The dwarf gave his wrist a yank. You did not see these things. You babble. I swear it. I swear it. Desperately, Ranofer poured out the story. How he'd knocked over the vase and they'd searched for him, how he had flung the box and then the wine jar and escaped and rolled a stone over the crevice. But master, I could not push it tight and they will come out of there. I left two friends to guard the place, but one is an old man and the other only a boy, like me, and I do not know if they can keep the stone in place. Perhaps those cursed ones have killed them by now. Another yank at his wrist cut off the rest. What cursed ones? Who are these robbers? Come, are you not making this whole tale up? You do not know their names, I'll wager my earrings. Oh, I do. They are Winneman the Mason and Goblet the Stonecutter. I know them well. Too well, added Ranofer bitterly. Goblet is my half-brother. I live in his house and eat his bread. The dwarf's expression underwent a change. He examined Ranofer's face minutely for a moment, excuse me, then turned and started along the graveled path, pulling Ranofer after him with a surprising strength. We will see, he muttered as he flung open a gate. If you are lying to me, oh, I am not lying, master. Joy rushed through Ranofer. He wanted to thank the strange little man to heap praises on him, but Conifer was pattering along so fast he'd scarcely breath enough to keep up. They hurried through a flowery arbor, down another walk, and up a flight of steps that climbed the side of a large building. The palace, Ranofer thought. I am going into the palace of Pharaoh. The door at the top of the stair opened into a vast hallway, down which the dwarf pulled him without slackening his rapid half-trotting walk. Ranofer caught confused glimpses of shining walls and pavements painted in glowing colors. Then suddenly he was dragged through a doorway and given a final shove. Stay here, the dwarf hissed fiercely and vanished into the hall. Well, we are getting close to the end. So, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think that they are going to send soldiers and find Goblet and Winneman? Or are they going to find the bodies of Hecate and the Ancient? Is Ranofer going to see the queen? Or is he going to see a guard? We'll have to wait and see. Bye-bye.